Good evening. This is CTV News for Tuesday, October 14th. I'm Rochelle Metzger. Thank you for joining us tonight. Well, the nurse who contracted Ebola from a patient she was treating at a Dallas hospital has received blood from Kent Brantley, the U.S. doctor who was infected with Ebola this summer while treating patients in Liberia. Brantley recovered from the disease after receiving treatment in the States. Health experts believe his plasma could help infected people fight off the virus. It's not known how the nurse, Nina Pham, contracted Ebola, but doctors say she remains in stable condition tonight. In the meantime, the Centers for Disease Control held a conference today to address the deadly disease. CDC Director Tom Frieden is urging hospitals around the country to enhance Ebola training for healthcare workers, including limiting the number of workers who treat infected individuals to better contain the disease. Frieden says every hospital in the United States needs to be able to diagnose Ebola.
That means that every doctor, every nurse, every staff person in an emergency department who cares for someone with fever or other signs of infection needs to ask, where have you been in the past month? Where have you been in the past 21 days? Have you been to Liberia, Sierra Leone, or Guinea? That's important. That will reduce the risk that someone will come into a hospital and not be diagnosed.
And as efforts to fight the disease are ramped up here, the Ebola virus has claimed another life outside of West Africa. A UN medical worker who was infected with Ebola in Liberia died at a German hospital where he was undergoing treatment. Chair of the Prince George's County Council briefed the media this morning on a number of key legislative items currently before its members. A grocery store tax credit is one measure under consideration as a way to bring new options to aging shopping centers and food deserts. Chairman Mel Franklin says budget constraints will put some other ideas on hold as leaders work to deal with the current fiscal year deficit.
It's a challenging conversation because we're having to come to a meeting of the minds about some tough choices. So we're working through it. That's really the answer. We haven't come to sort of a determination about what those cuts need to look like. Some of it will depend on how our revenue forecast looks further into the fiscal year. I think particularly after the turn of the calendar year.
Franklin says the council is also looking at an administration proposal to establish 5 pre-designated transit-oriented development tax incentive financing districts. The new locations would include Largo Town Center, Prince George's Plaza University Town Center, Suitland Naylor Road, and New Carrollton. Meanwhile, the council considers legislation proposed by the administration that would increase caps on compensatory damages awarded and civil fines imposed by the Human Relations Commission for civil rights violations. The bill raises the limit on damages from $100,000 to $200,000, and the cap on fines would jump from $5,000 to $10,000. The council also voted to approve a resolution endorsing a proposed expansion of the Prince George's County Enterprise Zone. The proposal designates new focus areas that include Forest Heights, Glenarden, Capitol Heights, and Morningside. The zone program directs state and local resources to economically challenged areas and offers businesses and property owners tax incentives. The new application has to be approved by the state before the county's existing map expires in December. Well, the Maryland general election is coming up, and officials want to remind voters that today is the deadline to register. If you haven't already done so, there are certain steps you need to take, and CTV's Stephen Graves is at the County Board of Elections with more.
November 4th is fast approaching. That's the date of the general election, but today marks the deadline for turning in your voter registration form for all voters across Maryland. Now, what this means is you have to print out a form online, or you can receive it from your local MVA or post office and turn it into your local election board office. Now, officials warn this needs to be done because ultimately, if you don't, your vote will not be counted.
In the state of Maryland, once you're registered to vote and you continue voting, then you'll be a lifetime registered voter. If someone missed today's deadline, unfortunately, that he or she will not be able to register to vote until after the voter registration rolls reopen. And unfortunately, they will not be able to, they could go to the polls, they would vote a provisional ballot. However, If that individual is not registered, that vote will not count.
Officials also say if you have a change of address, to turn that information into your local election board office as well, so you can vote for those district-specific races. Now, once again, the deadline to register to vote for all Marylanders is tonight at 9 p.m. And for Prince George's County residents, you can turn in that form in the offices right behind me. In Largo, I'm Stephen Graves with CTV News.
The elections office is located on 1100 Mercantile Lane in Largo. Residents can also apply online with a valid Maryland ID by 9 p.m. tonight. The website is elections.state.md.us. And you're watching CTV News. I'm Rochelle Metzger.